Hey, what is going on, everyone? It's me, Mr. Mario, and welcome back to another episode of ModChat. For those who do not know, this here is a podcast I do at least once a month in two different forms. First of all, it is available in a visual form that you might be watching here on the Mr. Mario 2011 YouTube, Rumble, and Odyssey channels. It's also available in an audio-only form like an actual podcast, so you can take it around and listen to it wherever the hell you want to. Simply look up ModChat, all one word, on your favorite podcasting app, host, provider, or platform, and you should be able to find it. I know it's not available on all of them, but it's available on most of them. Either way, this is a podcast where I come on here at least once a month, and I talk to you all about some things that I found cool, interesting, fascinating of any kind, sometimes do a little bit of show and tell in the world of video game modding and video game console modding. This time around, not going to be doing any, Wipeout gameplay, Phantom Edition gameplay, because bringing Lily back. Lily, you're back on camera for the first time. She's back on camera for the first time in months, and she won't even look at the camera. Lily, there we go. You can see her face there in the corner if you're checking out the visual version. Either way, what we're gonna do is just get right into these topics here. So let's see what we have in store for this episode. Now, I don't cover 3D printed related things all too often, but I thought that this was too cool to not cover. This was originally posted on the 360 Hacks subreddit. Plus, look, I mean, from the title of it, I've got a special love for the Xbox 360, so I did want to cover this here and at least shout it out. This is from user Syphant, I believe that's how I would say it here, and this project is called Xbox 360 Shell Trinity. Now, this is cool because they believe that they are the first person here to really take a crack at making a open source and 3D printed Xbox 360 replacement console shell, but this one is also different because you could see if you're watching the visual here that this one is intended for essentially a DVD drive delete mod, or just, if you're not going to use that terminology, is just not having a DVD drive in the console itself. So kind of running through this here, they do state, after asking around on 360 Hacks, it seems like nobody had done this or tried it before, at least from my research, so I decided to take a crack at it just for fun. Please read the info below for more details. This does not mimic the design or aesthetics of the original shell. The shape is fairly rudimentary, but maybe it can be more creatively detailed in the future if any talented folks want to remix this. This will probably only work with a Trinity 360, possibly Corona, but unconfirmed. The Trinity is the only model I own, and it's what I referenced to design this. You are welcomed and encouraged to remix this design to accommodate other models and or make improvements. They are specifying the XY dimensions, and they said that it just barely fits within the printable area of their Bamboo Lab X1C, so just make sure that this works within your printable area if you're printing this yourself. They also state that this design assumes you don't use or need the optical drive, and theirs is RGH3, so everything is okay there, but you'll probably want to bridge a couple pins together to make the system think the drive is closed, and it's these ones that they're talking about right here. I've seen people do not even DVD drive delete mods before, but just rip the DVD drive out of their console, and in short, if you don't do this here, if you don't at least like bridge them in some way, then your console, it just the light is just going to keep blinking because it's just thinking like the tray is opening by default. This design assumes you don't need or use the front USB ports. I only use OEM wireless controllers. The 3 ports on the back are enough for me. This results in the front face looking a lot cleaner. In my opinion, it's better than having a gaping rectangular hole on the front, especially since the front ports are so very recessed. Again, please feel free to remix this design to make changes if you want. So I can foresee that happening here. Probably there being a change to just allow the front-facing USB ports in order to be, these 2 USB ports in order to have them be visible and usable on here. Now, they do state that you do need to ditch the plastic OEM fan shroud since it interferes with one of the top shell mounting poles. In my testing, I found the south bridge and NAND to receive sufficient cooling without it and found no thermal issues. The design of the shell results in the rear power input no longer being keyed, allowing you to potentially plug in the power connector upside down. Do not do this. I used a label maker to make face up and face down labels to put on the top and bottom of the power input connector to serve as reminders when plugging it in, so that's going to be important. Dimension restrictions unfortunately resulted in eliminating the Wi-Fi adapter. I only use Ethernet anyways, but this is an important point to understand first before you print this. He also goes into a bit more detail about doing some of the solder work work for some of the buttons, which is simple compared to the soldering that you would do to RGH the system, for example. Ditching the original light diffuser ring, talking about the hard drive mount that is in there, getting some of the additional parts that are needed, and making sure you don't tighten them all too much or else you could warp the shell. They did use Tinkercad for this. They found it to be annoying, but they just haven't had the time to learn Fusion yet. But they did ask here at the end, why did I do this? I don't know. It doesn't really solve a problem. I just wanted to get into designing and prototyping and thought it would be fun to try making something that hadn't been done before. At least to my knowledge, happy to be corrected on this if not. I suppose it would be useful to someone with a trendy console if their shell is in rough shape and or if they want to make it more compact. And I will say this, I know there is a trend of people, like kind of making consoles smaller and smaller and just taking up less space, kind of just as a cool thing, like a bit of a challenge, and also the aesthetics of it as well too. I'm not as into that, but the first thing I did think of was actually the first thing they brought up here, where they were saying, like, let's say you have a trendy shell that is in really rough shape and you don't want to, grab another shell from a system or buy up another system and, pull the shell off of that. It's cool that this can be done here, or if you just have a motherboard only, you can RGH it, do the other few mods you need to on here, and then you have something that's pretty cool. Now, looking into why this is pretty cool, let's go ahead and look at the photos here. So first of all, we have the kind of like top-down view of the console itself, so it looks like it has the ring of light right there. You have the fan up top, which makes it look more like a Xbox Series S, so that's nice, except I like this more in all honesty. And then you have the power button and you have the sync button right there, so you can still access those. Looks like here, of course, they are showing the vents on the side and of course up at the top, and then this is a RGH modded system, so that is going to be something here. If you're going to want to use this properly, you really do need to RGH your system. Right here, you can see a little bit of what they did. This is the solder work they were talking about with the actual like RF board itself, in order to, because you no longer have those original sensors, so you're going to need some way to hit the power and sync buttons on here. You no longer need the eject button just because you're going to remove the DVD drive entirely. And then there is this riser right here where, as you can see, it just plops on, kind of takes the place of where the DVD drive used to be. And then the nice benefit is you can just put in your hard drive or your SSD right there. Right here, this is one of the pins that they were talking about. That's how it looks as well too, at least on the inside. So when you are putting the shell on top of the motherboard, this is how it's going to be looking. And then you screw it in from the bottom, of course. Here's some more of the work you're seeing right here. So like, for example, a few photos back, like this one, you have these connectors right here, and they would be physically connecting into these that are on the shell itself. Again, power and sync buttons. That makes sense to me. The back is looking really clean as well too. You seem to have some spaces for the USB ports, the connect port, the HDMI port. So actually that's one downside here. It looks like you would only be limited to HDMI on this, at least in its current version 1 revision here. So if you want to use composite or component, you can't do that. So this is the bottom. He's got these screws and the feet, so that way it actually screws all together, but also of course it's not going to slide every which way. This is how it looks. So you do have optical audio out, but the only thing is, with this current revision here, you don't have those front USB ports, and then of course in the back you do not have access to the main like analog video port, unfortunately. Now this here, I'm wondering how well this can be changed. Like, I believe he was just doing this for simplicity's sake here, but I'm wondering how much this can be modified in order to really key the power plug again. Just because you see right here, the major downside to this, and I'm not really poo-pooing on it, but he did even talk about this here in the release. The major downside is that you do have to be careful which orientation you're plugging this system into. So if you make a quick mistake, or even let's say you have a loved one who's plugging it in, you're telling them to unplug the Xbox, plug it back in, or just unplug, you're telling them to plug it into the entertainment center or what have you, they can fry your console that you spent all this time working on. So that would be something I hope like you can at least change, or someone ends up kind of remixing this and changes the key right here so it is keyed for the power plug itself. Lastly, you have some of the design photos right here, where of course you have the top, the bottom, and the hard drive or SSD bracket, and then you have this alternative angle as well too. So overall, like, this is cool. Like, I love this. This is really awesome, and I haven't seen it gotten, like, as you can see, I haven't really seen it get all that much attention right here. So I'll have it linked in the description. Please check it out. Like, this looks really cool. I do not know this user, by the way. I'm not getting any kickbacks or anything on here. I just think that this is a really cool project, and I wanted to get some more eyes on it. I think the very last thing before we move on here is that it is worth noting that it has a Creative Commons Attribution non-commercial share alike license. So essentially, to my understanding, if you're wanting to do this for yourself, that's all good. But if you start seeing people who start trying to like sell this design and all that stuff, shame on them. Shame on them right there. Now, since we covered the Xbox 360, it's also really cool we're able to go back even further and cover the original Xbox. And this here was over from xboxscene.info, but this is for the Xbox Scene Modfest 2024. They state celebrating homebrew innovation and the modding scene for Xbox, Xbox 360, Xbox One, and Xbox Series X. So it could have just stayed to the original Xbox, but they decided to be inclusive and put all Xboxes in here. They state here, the Xbox Scene community is thrilled to present Xbox Scene Modfest, a development event dedicated to the original Xbox, Xbox 360, Xbox One, and Xbox Series X. This online fest invites developers, artists, and enthusiasts to create and submit games, emulators, applications, or hardware mods. Submissions open December 1st, with projects due by January 31st. Community voting and a judging panel will award prizes to the top entries across two distinct categories: software and hardware. Two prize categories: software. This includes games, emulators, and applications. Prize will be awarded based on creativity, functionality, and impact on the community. Hardware. This community includes hardware mods or projects. Participants can submit completed projects by the January 31st deadline. If a project is not yet finished, participants must submit a video demonstrating proof of concept by the deadline. The hardware prize will only be awarded once the project is finalized and released under an open source license in accordance with the contest rules. This approach allows flexibility for hardware developers while ensuring the contest remains fair and innovative. Projects may use official or unofficial development tools such as NXDK, XDK, or other available options, and must be open sourced on GitHub or similar platforms, fostering collaboration and community support. The rules include no NSFW content, open source requirement, previously started project. So this one I actually was interested in and did want to highlight. Games, emulators, applications, or hardware mods that have previously started are welcome, provided they meet all event requirements and show significant progress or improvement. So there we go. If anybody's been working on something in the background, it can still get entered here as long as it's following the rest of the rules. The rest of them being here: originality requirement, stating that projects must be the original work of the entrant or represent a significant improvement or expansion of an existing project. Hardware safety, in short, just including clear documentation to ensure safe and responsible use, and nothing that's going to permanently damage a console, just haphazardly. Documentation, that's important. They have to come with adequate documentation. Licensing, they must have a open source and permissive license to guarantee that others can learn from or contribute to the work. Community engagement, so this here, participants are encouraged at least to engage with the community by sharing updates on the Xbox Scene forums or Discord. And then this one with the more modern ones here, Xbox One and Xbox Series X compliance. Projects for both these systems must not interfere with or negatively impact Xbox Live, the Xbox Terms of Service, or any other Microsoft services. Now, we don't have any details on the prizes yet, and then in regards to sponsorship and contributions, they are stating, we are actively seeking sponsors and contributors to help build an exciting prize pool for Xbox Scene Modfest 2024. If you're interested in supporting the event and contributing to the community, please reach out to one of the staff members on the Xbox Scene Discord. And if you're interested in anything further here, they do have a link to the Discord there where you can learn more about this and you can talk about it there among everyone else. So this here is really cool. So something like, for example, I guess it has been released, but something like the Xbox 360 case that we saw, the 3D printed one, that would be something that could be submitted in here. I mean, well, it's already been released at this point, so I don't think so, but if someone was working on something like that, it would be something that I feel like could be a part of the Modfest. But there's also something else, another example, which this one is not going to be in the Modfest, I'm pretty sure, because it's already been released, but this is another example of, an idea that could have been part of the Modfest. I know it's a complete meme at this point that Doom has to run on every single device, and when you hack up a system or you hack up a device, there's two things you run on it, either Linux or Doom. And Doom is one of those games that is homebrew ported to the original Xbox. So the original Xbox can run Doom. But did you know that now it's possible, thanks to Ryzy119 and a recent release from him, that you can now install a BIOS on your Xbox that all it does is run Doom? You can run Doom at the BIOS level, is what I'm saying. It's not just an application, it's not a game, it's not something on an emulator, it's working at a BIOS level. It states here, Xbox Doom BIOS is a replacement original Xbox BIOS that does one thing: plays Doom. They state here again, play your original Xbox the way Bill Gates it truly intended with DoomBIOS. This is a 256 kilobyte BIOS image that replaces the original Xbox BIOS to do one thing: play Doom. It's 100% open source with no copyrighted code. And they ended up showing a video right here, which we'll load up. You can see here that this is a Xbox that's been mod chipped with the Xenium Gold 24K. And if you do not know, this here is a mod chip that you can install. So essentially when you boot up the system, as opposed to booting into the default retail kernel, the Xbox has an instruction to boot up something connected to the LPC port, which is this mod chip. And from there, you can choose to boot up something else. So it boots up into this Xenium Gold 24K menu system, and from there you can install BIOS to the actual chip itself, which you can put the retail BIOS, you can put a custom BIOS on there. So I just wanted to give that background because it's just a short video here, but if we play it, they have it launched. They're going to go to the launch menu here, hopefully. I'm trying to get this to play. Is this seriously not going to play? Like, really? You're going to mess up on me? Okay, here we go. So they end up, okay, we'll go back because it's quick. Again, they go to the launch menu, right? And then right here, they have the M8 BIOS, and then they also have one called Doom. Launch Doom, okay. And again, this is at a BIOS level. That's it. Dude, like that. That's so cool. All right, so yeah, you can, if you wanted to, if you really want to troll, you could even do something like flash this to the TSOP of an original Xbox, and all you'll be able to do is play Doom on that original Xbox. That's really awesome. Now, there is going to be some other stuff you have to do. So not only you have to put the BIOS on there, but they do state that you have to have your hard drive in an unlocked state. You need to download the shareware version of Doom, which is freely available. And then you can't just, like, the WAD itself, like the levels themselves and everything are not in the BIOS. You do need to put that on the hard drive itself. So you need to place it at doom1.wad. And then at that point, you can flash your BIOS to your mod chip and you're able to run it there. Now, for anybody who might be wondering what the hell is the point of this here, one, it's to get Doom to run at an even like crazier level on this system or on any system. But number two, it's even the general features here where they state, although we run Doom, there's a lot of boilerplate to make this work. The following are features I think are neat. And going down this, they state uses free RTOS kernel for multi-threading support, custom ATA or ATA PI driver with full DMA support up to UDMA 6, auto-negotiated speeds. Seamlessly read-write files on FAT16, FAT32, exFAT, and FATX file systems using standard C library calls, fopen, etc. ISO 9660 support for reading DVD-ROMs, USB mass storage support, PCM audio driver from NXDK, compress the BIOS at compile time, and decompresses to RAM at runtime using LZ4 for significant ROM savings. Uses the Visor exploit, which runs on any Xbox version, and comprehensive C library included using pico libc. So that's really cool here, and that's actually something that I had talked about. I was actually on their modcast, and I don't know when it's going to come out, but I was on an episode of the Xbox Scene modcast, essentially. I think it's the Usual Places modcast, that's what it's called. And I was talking with a friend of the show here, Hardcroft, on there, and this is really what he was talking about. Like, he essentially said, like, yeah, you know, the fact that we can run Doom at this level is cool, but the big thing is, this is really cool for creating or adding to or generating, making open source BIOS for the original Xbox, because you see right here, all this stuff was readily available right there or written into it. And even though all this does is run Doom, like, just to repeat it, just a few of the things right there, there is support for USB storage, there is support for reading DVD-ROMs, there's exFAT support now. There's exFAT support, and this is running up to UDMA 6, which is the fastest that we've been able to get communication speed on the original Xbox to go to. So under the hood, this is one of the most impressive things I've seen for the original Xbox, but you know, it gets some added attention too because it's Doom. And we can look at the releases as well too. It looks like there's been a few releases. This was the first one here, but you see the first one was released 3 weeks ago, and then we're up to 1.3 so far. So it can go up to 720p. It's handling widescreen better. They fixed some Excalibur encoder issues. Like, this is cool. This is cool. This is not just, oh, we're gonna run Doom on here. Like, this is, if used properly and used as inspiration for other BIOS related projects for the original Xbox, this is a fantastic foundation. I know this one is a little bit older now. This was back in October, but this was interesting to see here. So this is talking about, it's from Retro Dodo, and they're stating Breath of the Wild DS Demake discovered by AliExpress customer. And here they state, we'll just go into it a little bit. Imagine purchasing a Flashcart from AliExpress for the DS and discovering a demake of what is undoubtedly the Switch's most famous game preloaded into it. That's exactly what one lucky owner has found, with a demade version of Hyrule and a very DS-style Link, first discovered by us in a picture posted on GBA Temp. What's even more exciting is that there are Japanese demos of this demake running all the way back to 2019 that completely flew under the radar of Western gamers. We'll go ahead and play this here, but they say the video above uploaded by Just Jason even shows the game running on DS and not just an emulator, just to prove that it is 100% real. All Link can do is run around. There's no combat or any quests to be completed, but the entire map of Hyrule from Breath of the Wild is there for players to traverse, even if you sometimes run through parts of mountains instead of over them. Let's just hope the modder never got around to adding Lynels into the equation. This is an incredibly ambitious project, and one that I can safely assume is no longer being worked on. If this Breath of the Wild demake hasn't gone any further than demos showed in 2019 after a 5-year hiatus, then it's probably as far as it's ever going to go, especially with Nintendo prowling after modders like Shirikan and Mowgli's Village. Still, it's an exciting project and one that would have been cool to get our hands on. I have no idea who made this mod, but there are rumors that it's still out there on the internet somewhere for those willing to search. Or you can just keep buying flashcards from AliExpress and play Potluck. I wonder what the odds are. So the funny thing is, unfortunately, I never noted the author of this down. But funny enough, and I guess, I believed it at face value at least, but I don't know what they would have to lie about on this. There was a developer I had seen over on Twitter at one point, this is a few weeks ago, where they actually shared about this, and they said, hey, essentially the story they said was, yeah, this is my work. This was a demake I was working on just for fun. I was working on it with the DS. I haven't worked on it in years. And I ended up, giving the files to several people when I was working on it. And it turns out after enough time, it ended up leaking out. But I thought it would leak out onto the internet. I never thought it would leak out onto AliExpress preloaded flashcards. But here we are. Cool. So they seem to kind of take it in stride there, and it was just kind of surprising to them. But that's really what we're seeing here. And for anybody who might be wondering how it came from, like, if AliExpress is selling this by default, like, no. What you can do is on AliExpress, you can buy flashcards there. And even though this part is a no-no, unfortunately, or I guess fortunately, if you are looking for this on there, they do many times have micro SD cards on them that are preloaded with a ton of games. They might have like Homebrew and other ROMs and, emulators and things like that. So it's interesting that this one here ended up having it. So it's certainly interesting nonetheless. This here was quick and something that I wanted to cover here because I always love, kind of some more goodwill that is in regards to these and, companies doing the right thing here. For anybody who doesn't know about GOG.com or Good Old Games, essentially they are one of these places where they are a digital storefront and they sell DRM-free versions of games. They sell new games, they sell old games. You can see plenty of them right over here. And their big thing is they do have a launcher, but even if you want to, you never have to use that. You do make an account on here, you do purchase games through it, but whenever you do purchase games, you can get a DRM-free installer and you can download it. And at that point, you can install it yourself. You can back it up to a hard drive. You can back it up to 10 SSDs. You can burn it onto a DVD. They don't put any DRM on it, is what I'm saying, which is big for modern companies and something when we've seen more and more companies kind of take away rights and such with games, with products, and especially digital goods, where now we're seeing more and more legislation that is showing that when you purchase a digital good, you're not purchasing it. You don't own it. You are simply paying for a license to have access for it for the allocated amount of time that the publisher is giving you to access that. That's really what it is. While as GOG, they're saying, no, if you pay, for example, $10 for Dungeon Keeper 2, we'll give you the executable and that's it. You own it. You can do whatever you want to after that. So I wanted to highlight this real quick because not only several friends over the years have like really loved GOG, and I've seen nothing but more and more love for them as time has gone on, but now more than ever they have this initiative they are pushing, which is the GOG Preservation Program. And they state here, time is erasing the games that shaped you, forgotten, incomplete, unplayable. We can fight back. There's 100 games in this program. The average rating is, 4.2 out of 5 stars, and there's over 500 game improvements so far. Now, looking at this here, it's just simple. They're talking about it saying, the GOG Preservation Program ensures classic games remain playable on modern systems, even after their developers stop supporting them. By maintaining these iconic titles, GOG helps you protect and relive the memories that shaped you, DRM-free and with dedicated tech support. And you can see right here, like some of the preservation stories, they have Resident Evil, Diablo and the Hellfire expansion, and then Heroes of Might and Magic 3 complete. And if you want to check out like the Resident Evil bundle, for example, this right here is Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3. Not the remakes, these are the original ones, which did release on PC, mind you, back in the day. But they are annoying at minimum to get up and running. And if you want to do it legally, from what I understand, expensive to buy as well. While it's with GOG, you can just go ahead and buy these here. And this is actually a release that many people, including like several of my close friends, were surprised by and ended up loving. But you can just buy it. You get DRM-free copies that work with pretty much little to no issue on up to Windows 11. And you can see here when they give a lot of love for the series and such and talk about it here, they also cover the preservation log at the bottom. So for example, some of the things, I'm not going to read off everything, but like there's all 4 localizations of the game included for the first Resident Evil. They validated the stability of it. It does work on 10 and 11 versions of Windows. There's cloud save support, improved game video player, improved game registry settings, issue-free game exit and task switching, even Resident Evil 2, for example, there's a better save game manager, issueless game exit, Fourth Survivor, and Tofu modes are enabled from the very beginning. Resident Evil 3 have some of these too. Like they talked about the improved DirectX game renderer for all of these here. Mercenary mode is included, full support for modern controllers, so that's really cool on these. Oh, and actually Resident Evil 2, I'm seeing this, fixed issues with rooms 114, 115 missing text, room 210 invisible diary, and room 409 looping sound. So again, this is something that, I mean, they never went anywhere. They've been doing this for years, but they've just been doing it better and better and with even more impressive titles and games. So this is certainly something that should be hailed and should be preserved, just like they're preserving games. Go ahead, preserve things like this. This is really awesome to see. Now, as a final topic here, I typically like to cover something interesting, cool, funny, what have you in the world of game modding, video game console modding that could be tangentially or indirectly related to it. And right here is from Time Extension talking about Epic Games is totally chill about you downloading Unreal and Unreal Tournament for nothing. So this here, in short, I was actually talking about it with some folks over my Discord server, and I said, this is like one of the few times with a big game like this, it's like, actually, it's okay to share links to this. Specific links, mind you, but it would technically not really be piracy since Epic themselves are okay with it here. Now, just reading into this, they state, while Epic Games is best known for the free-to-play juggernaut that is Fortnite, it found initial fame with 1998's graphically stunning Unreal, which was followed by online shooter Unreal Tournament a year later. Both games are no longer available for download digitally, but Epic has given its blessing for the Internet Archive to host installation files, which allow anyone to download and play them. As reported by Game Developer, a post was made on the old Unreal Discord server which outlines Epic's view on the situation, and they state here, a message from old Unreal. With Epic's permission, we have an important message for everyone who is having trouble locating the installation files for Unreal or Unreal Tournament or wants to try the games for the first time. We recommend that you download the games as follows. Download an image of the original game disc from archive.org. That means that this one linked to the Unreal Tournament Game of the Year edition for Unreal Tournament, or this one for the Unreal ISO for Unreal. For technically adept people who wish to verify the authenticity of the disk images, they do also have hashes like MD5 hashes for the ISOs. And they state here, please do not instruct people to download other disk images or distributions. The ones listed in this post are the only ones we approve. So this is cool here overall because you don't see it all too often. often. Like, typically, it really comes to be from the publisher, right? But there's been many game developers in the past who might take, the Kevin Smith approach with Dogma, where he says, yeah, we're not going to be able to get on streaming services. I won't be able to repress it, just watched on YouTube. Or there might be artists, for example, that say, hey, don't pay $300, $400, $500 for my first CD that I released that I only pressed like 50 copies of. Just find a rip of it on YouTube and listen to it there. It's fine. But that doesn't really cover the rights into it. But this here is the publisher themselves, not just the developer, but the publisher and the owner of the license here, where you cannot find these games legally for purchase digitally. Getting them physically is going to be probably annoying and expensive, and it doesn't seem like they have any intention of putting up a digital copy for sale, which I would say is a little bit disappointing. Like, it's not going to be on GOG, but the thing that makes up for it is they just say, hey, yeah, there's these two repositories over on archive.org that have Unreal Tournament and Unreal. We give those ones our blessing. Those ones, you can download them from there. That's fine. We're not going to do anything. Like, we're not going to go after you. It's okay. You can download them from there with our permission. We are allowing you to do that. That's fine. So that's really cool overall. I love seeing it. Anyways, that is about it for this episode of ModChat. I hope you all had some fun watching, listening, being entertained, and I hope it was educational in some way and still entertaining all at the same time. Now, if you've made it to the end of this episode, what I like to do is I like to pick a keyword or a key phrase. And if you use that keyword or key phrase in a comment on the video upload, I'll know that you made it to the end of this episode. Now, there is going to be Thanksgiving coming up here in North America, and I do know that a lot of people are going to be traveling, eating turkey, all that fun stuff. So I will say, if you are celebrating, partaking in the holiday, I hope you all enjoy it. If you're traveling, please travel safe. And, as opposed to a specific... How about this? As opposed to a specific keyword or key phrase, let's maybe have a little bit of a discussion, right? There's going to be people talking about the details of, what we discussed and everything that was covered in this episode down below in the comments, but maybe toss in your favorite, Thanksgiving food. Do you love turkey? Do you hate turkey? Do you look forward to pumpkin pie? Let me know. Maybe it's also because I'm needing dinner here soon. I don't know, but maybe that might be a fun discussion to have. So let's talk some food, okay? Talk about, just at least share your favorite food. If you have a recipe, something like that, let's see what we can do in the comments section. I haven't done this before, so I don't know how it's going to unfold, but we'll see what happens. Anyways, that is about it for this episode of ModChat. If you enjoyed it, a like would absolutely be appreciated. If you didn't like it, a dislike is fine as well, too. As I always say, this is Mr. Mario, signing off. Thank you all for listening and watching, everyone. And until next time.